Welcome to the SPL Rundown, your weekly look at the Smite Pro League. This week I'm joined by Frost, Lermy Wormy, and we have a special guest, Slainy, the coach for a Ghost, joins us as well to break down all the games. Stay tuned for my interview with Nika, the solo laner from SSG, but first we're going to start with Ghost versus Radiance, and this is a rematch of the Phase 1 playoff finals. And since I've got you here, Slainy, I have to say, this was a little bit different than the end of Phase 1 finals, so what was going through your guys' heads as this game was going on, and afterwards, how are you responding to this game and this set, actually?
Well, it's obviously probably the worst set that we've had outside of even with last year, outside of MSI. It's probably the worst set we've ever had. We kind of got really unfortunate because we had scrimmed maybe 2 or 3 times in 2 weeks going into that set because just loads of unfortunate circumstances. There was a week where Panda's internet was out, and then when we were supposed to scrim again, his car broke down in the highway, so we couldn't scrim again. So we had one scrim that week going into it, and obviously Radiant's really good. And I think it was also just outside of scrims, we just had an off day, which I think every team will have every now and then. But I think we're in a somewhat of a slump. We know the each player knows their few picks that they're really comfortable on, but going past that, it's we're not sure. We don't have the best grasp on the meta. But that was how we were back then anyway. That's how we felt in the Radiant set.
Sure. I think the 2-0 maybe makes it seem a little more lopsided than the games actually were. I think you guys were definitely fighting into it. But Lermy, Frost, what were your thoughts on this game?
I guess kind of pulling it back to our discussion about it last week when we were kind of predicting, Frost initially said that this is going to be a long set or, a long couple of games. So I guess my confusion going into it was we were looking at some of the drafts, and I guess one thing that really stood out to me was that you guys picked up Thanatos and Hercules, and that's kind of of course, both of those guys are really early game. So, I mean, I guess the question is, did you guys also think it was going to be a long set, or were you kind of trying to just stomp it out early?
I mean, we kind of never really expect a set to go long or short. It's not, we never go into a set thinking we're just going to win this game in 20 minutes. Versus, I guess, maybe the bottom seeded teams, we'd maybe think that. But versus a team like Radiance, I don't think we ever expect to just blow them out for free. But I mean, we tried a lot of this draft was just trying picks versus them. Obviously we gave them a really nuts draft from the outside in that game 1, and we had strats that we didn't really execute perfectly. Even though Thanatos is good early game, he's still nuts late game. He's just got a 40% execute on a Cthulhu. So there was lots of things that we just misplayed in that game, and I think that we just weren't prepared enough for how they played the map, I think.
Do you feel like their playstyles evolved? Start of phase 1, it felt like they were fighting on more. They're really strong, aggressive players, except for BMT kind of in phase 1 was sort of bringing up the rear. Now they seem to have slowed their pace down, and it allows BMT to actually shine more. So does it feel like you're facing off against a different Radiance, or was it just completely way off day for a Ghost?
I mean, comparatively to the very beginning of phase 1, where they were just trying to play pressure through duo and it never really worked for them, obviously, yeah. But after even halfway through the end of halfway through phase 1, I would say they just felt like the same team. I think they played the same way that they usually do. Obviously they have different picks, but they still kind of just play the same way. They don't really do that much around the map, and I think it was just us having a bad day, us having bad scrims, and just not executing what we wanted to do properly.
See, I hold that, even though I'm biased, but it was more so I had 2-3 years of picking out which players I liked, and then eventually picking an org because they were all on the same team. I hold that no one can beat Ghost except Ghost, and I'm honestly almost concerned for the mentals of everybody on this team.
Well, I think maybe from the outside it could seem that way, thinking maybe we have bad mentals, but overall I think we probably have the strongest mental in the SPL. Honestly, I don't think we ever even last year, I don't think we've had a single argument that was in bad blood. Obviously we have discussions, but I don't think we've ever had an argument or bad fights after a loss or anything like that. We improve a lot from the losses that we have. Obviously it didn't seem like that because we lost our next set or the set after. I can't remember whichever one sang.
With the one prior, Sanguine,
one.
and then this one, and then it almost got dirty in United. We'll talk about that later.
but yeah, obviously it didn't look that way. But we learn a lot from our losses. So I don't think we actually have like a struggling mental. I don't think.
Yeah.
Because we're all like really good friends outside
Yeah,
of everything.
not a struggling mental, but like not as synchronized, because the playstyle for you guys is the most daring, the most. It's going to work if we all play 100%, and it like trust it. It's like a freaking your torso is only going to work if the lower half is working, and you just kind of can't even look. Sometimes that's why you can look so drastically like a train wreck. You just kind of go on ahead, look behind you, and one of the guys wasn't paced alongside with me. Now that fell apart, this fell apart, and then the rest of it. So it's a very win together, lose together kind of thing. So even if it's not at the worst it's ever been, because you guys are all friends, that sort of like, is it as synchronized as always? Or is it just kind of, we're almost at the middle of this split. We've got fatigue here. You've got underlying circumstances.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
We definitely, like, you're kind of like spot on. We definitely have like the riskiest playstyle, but I also think it's like the most correct playstyle, and it like really surprises me that no other team plays what I think the way Smite should be played is. I mean, even if you just like listen to Ajax, the way that he explains the game is like, it's a really fast-paced game, even in Conquest, but like a lot of the SPL teams just are like content with giving up stuff or not making plays around the map, and I just think that's incorrect. Even though maybe that's like a safer way to play Smite. I think that a lot of the time just playing aggro and making the risky plays are just better than just sitting back and sitting on your hands.
Well, I think so too, because a lot of teams wouldn't like, they go in and they only think about what they can get and are also afraid of what they can lose. It's a balance of like, okay, we got a 1-for-0 back, we got a 2-for-0. It feels like Ghost is the kind to go, we'll trade 3 for 2. We'll take this and this and that, and we'll lose this. Like, you guys can actually take into account what you're going to lose. It's more of a game of chess than a game of just, I got his beads, I'm backing off. I got his ult. That's it.
It's just making sure that everything you do has a reason for like doing it. I guess like there's never like wasted. Well, obviously I can't say never. We sometimes misplay, obviously, but the goal is to never like do something that has no. So if you're like just fighting over red buff and it doesn't cause anything, why do we care? Just give up the red buff. We can go split off the map somewhere else. Like, it's just always like making sure everything you do is worthwhile.
And then, so how does that go against? Because that style runs over bottom tier teams really easily. But how does that go against, like, say, Radiance, SSG, and Sanguine, they do play a bit slower, a little safer, not nearly as risky, and in a way, it can end up being more punishing for you.
Yeah. Well, those teams like are obviously going to punish the mistakes that you make a lot harder than the bottom seeded teams. Obviously, the bottom seeded teams still can, but more consistently, a team like SSG is going to punish your mistakes. But I think even they still don't know how to like react to it properly. Like, I mean, you just look at SSG set. I don't think like there were so many times we would just like throw a wall and they would die in that combo, and I think like they never expected that to happen. And it's, I don't know. I just think other teams play Smite like noobs.
Finally, how many weeks did it take us to finally get just a little bit of trash talking?
I will say, Hurrywin did call out some teams, except for Sanguine. He called out the rest of the league, and I asked him to name names, and he said they know who they are. So
it's because Sanguine's got his number. He can't do it.
He said he loves Shinto.
Sure.
I mean, it's hard not to.
Well, they have very similar god pools, those two. They're almost like friend rivals.
It's also impossible to hate that team. They're always like so nice. I remember there was this one time in a scrim. It was like ages ago, but we were playing Sobek solo, and they had to pause, and free pauses on now because you can like combat pause in like the league. And Alec was like Sobek plucking. I can't remember who it was. He was Sobek plucking someone, and they paused right as they did it. And they messaged Alex saying, "Please don't do this." and they're just always like messaging people. Like in SPL, Hera was banned because she like caused her shield was bugged or something. And they hovered it, and Netroid messaged me, and he's like, he was just like saying, "We're gonna lock this in. Do you guys care?" Like just as a troll, and it's just like they're always messing around, having fun. So it's a hard team to hate them.
Sure. Any final thoughts maybe about Radiance here? I know we talked a lot about Ghost. What do you guys feel about Radiance here having won? Have they maybe solidified themselves at the top of the league?
It's hard to say. I think they're pretty up there. They certainly are a lot more consistent than they were in Split 1. I think they definitely have a shot at it.
Slainy?
Well, it's obviously hard to argue, like, because they beat us, but I'm pretty biased. I think that they're a really, really heavy momentum team.
Sure.
And I think, without like naming names of the players on the team, I think it's if they have like a bad loss here or there, like maybe like a bad couple weeks, that I think that team can easily spiral back down to being worse than they ever have been. But obviously, they could just ride the momentum that they have going on and kind of farm the league.
Sure.
How much do you play on like how much do you wager on emotions and momentum? Because sometimes it could be lose all the games going into one split, but if you got the momentum going into a tournament, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of just like how it's been for Worlds, I would say, like the past couple Worlds. So I would say it's really important, but it's like maybe they're just like wasting their momentum in the middle of a really long phase that doesn't matter that much.
That's sort of what I'm feeling right now. There, it's strange to see them play so conservative and I guess clean now, where they could be experimenting. Is that also why you guys kind of let through some picks that you do, as in Persephone Cthulhu?
Yeah, well, obviously we're like experimenting with like picks that we're giving teams to try and find things. I mean, we don't care about the losses in this. I think with the way the points work from MSI, we're kind of like, as long as we don't finish like bottom 2 or something in this phase, we're kind of already going to Worlds, I think, with just how many points we've gotten. So there's like a lot more freedom for us to be able to like experiment with like, what people pick and giving other people picks. But at the same time, it's like it's kind of a good thing that we're getting this slump, because I think a lot of the time teams will have slumps at some point in the year. It's just like kind of a given with just playing like nonstop and scrimming every day. And it's kind of like a good thing that we're having our slump like right now, when it's like a third of the way through phase 2. So we're definitely not going to keep this slump going on for the rest of the season. There'd be no way. So, yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we move on to SNG or Sanguine versus Obey?
Man, that kind of played out how I was anticipating it.
All right. Well, let's talk maybe not too long about Sanguine versus Obey, because these were the quickest games this week. I think both games under 30 minutes. Sanguine basically popping off all day versus Obey. What are you guys' thoughts on this set?
Yeah, this was rough.
That's kind of okay. The whole Vamos meme with Sanguine. I guess the top 4 teams, they play pretty clean, pretty conservative. Look for a mistake and then kind of play off of that. Sanguine, I think they're more in their Vamos mode when they're going against a lower tier team. This is kind of, all right, let's experiment with making a gap. We're just gotta get used to actually being the ones W king for a little bit. I think it was their stomping ground this time around.
Yeah, Sanguine just kind of goated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Metroid go in 509 on Jingwei and Shinto 619. I mean, we don't have the game 2 stats, unfortunately, because there are some problems with the website, but, you know, that seems to sum it up pretty well, I think. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about this set?
I don't think so. Maybe Sino puts to sleep the Warriors finally?
Finally?
I did not understand the
We've been
Achilles
saying
thing.
that for a while.
Golden Blade Achilles, maybe not the play.
Achilles jungle has been fine in the past. I don't think it's great now. I think if you're playing Achilles, it has to be solo or support. There's no shot it goes in the jungle.
Okay, don't even put it support. It's just a solo god.
But Rafa.
Nope, he played rat support. You think that's good?
I think he's just tired of his guardian.
I don't hate it.
I think he just closes his eyes and picks a god.
I think that's true.
Why is it that Sino does go for these warriors and trades off like map pressure for, I guess he's anticipating fight prowess? I don't know.
Maybe
I do think the way like Sam runs the map is way more ideal, and Sino's kind of given up map presence for big, beefy, kind of tanky warrior jungle.
I mean, it's just like a difference in playstyle, right? Like, if last year on Rival with when we had Ben Jungle, Captain Twig, I bet if you look from the outside, if we were losing our games, everyone would be saying the same thing about Sino, like that they do about Sino, because Ben was picking nothing that no one else well, especially at like Worlds towards the end. Ben was picking nothing that no one else played. Like we would be playing like Hebo, Athena, Poseidon, Jungle. All the
Well, he
time.
plays Poseidon as his thing. Like he's got that PVE, and he does have that map presence. And when Sino won Worlds, he was playing like Merc. He had that map presence. Why is it now he's just kind of he's his influence on the map? He's given up some of that just for more fighting. I don't know.
Maybe it's obviously hard to tell without like speaking to them specifically. Yeah. But from my perspective, maybe it's like that. Without being like too harsh, I would say Bobby is like not the best player in the world, and he a lot of the time gets picked. So maybe they just need the extra frontline presence. And I also think that Ducky plays best when he's playing characters that can carry. I mean, in our set he played Thor and played like nuts. So maybe it's like so that they can put Ducky on more carry characters and also like facilitate inbound playing a bit too aggro a lot of the time, just to have like an extra frontline presence.
So they're giving up pressure for like a standard 3-2, instead of a kind of a 2-2 and the wandering one.
Yeah, that could be obviously wrong. Sona's a really smart guy, so I don't really I don't have doubts in how he picks and stuff a lot of the time, but it's obviously just hard to tell without speaking to him.
I mean, I think he's a bit one of those like maybe a little too woke. A lot of times I see Sino games and I go, if the other team had an idea that they played into the way he plays, he's counterpicking so hard. But because the other team plays hypothetically 2 metas behind, it looks like Sino's the one behind. It's just, and you play way too many mind games and you could have just went for the more obvious decision.
Yeah.
He's still 5 weeks in, plus the first phase, he's still an enigma to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same page. It just seems like he's trying to counter a meta that's just not even being played. And I don't think it's that he doesn't understand the meta. I just think it seems like they're going too big brain. Like, even as the team as a whole, like, they're pulling out things like Ymir and Ra, and like, sometimes it'll work and like pop off and do fine, but most times when people are playing the normal meta, quote unquote, it doesn't work.
I also think.
Go ahead.
I also think that teams think Achilles is just like a hard counter to Cthulhu, which I think, like, we were the first team to pick Achilles into Cthulhu, but we also had like a game plan just outside of just like, okay, they have Cthulhu, we have Achilles now. And I think for some reason teams are just doing that. I think there was a set where SSG, like they won. I can't remember which set it was, but they picked Achilles into the Cthulhu, and Nika did well, but they didn't do anything around the Cthulhu. They just had them lane versus each other, which at that point you just like, Achilles isn't the best god in that situation. You have
I
to
think that was SSG United. I want to say that was Snoopy's Cthulhu and Cthulhu support. Nah, I'm not.
I think it was recent.
Was it?
Maybe I'm thinking of one that they've already played that has been broadcasted. Yeah,
I think he's played Achilles support twice. One of them definitely was a Cthulhu, but it's also like Cthulhu support gets pushed out by anything with any amount of CC and damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do a little bit more to counter Cthulhu than just pick the gods, right? Because I cast the SEC, and even yesterday we had a game where a Cthulhu solo is up against a Nemesis, Hubwa, and an Achilles, and it just, even though they have all the gods that counter Cthulhu, they didn't play the play style that they needed to do, and it just doesn't work. The god is not an automatic counter or a W up against the character if you're not playing the way that you should be.
Sure. Exactly. I just looked at it was in their game 1 versus E United, where they did it like Nika kind of popped off, but Harry went 0, 1, and 6. Like, he died once, so they didn't even abuse the Cthulhu, so he was still getting his value off. So I think teams are just like sometimes pretty weird with picks. So maybe that was like the same case with Obey, where they were like, oh, they have Cthulhu, let's just pick Achilles. We need to put it somewhere, let's just put it jungle.
I feel like a lot of teams still kind of they kind of just pick for picks, where I don't think most teams actually draft a composition with a very specific game plan. I think Renegades tries to, but it gets kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that's partly why, like, I mean, I don't want to talk about like my team too much, obviously, but I think that's like kind of why we're so strong, is just because we're so smart in picks and bans. Like, I think our drafts are usually just a lot better than other teams. Obviously, it's easy to say that when you win a lot, but I don't know. I just think a lot of teams aren't drafting very smart. They just kind of like think it's just binary. It's just like 0 and 1s when there's a lot more depth. It's like this god counts as this. So get.
All right then. Let's move on to PK versus Renegades. And I think this was basically like a coming out party for Cuvo Fred, who went 11-0 on Ravana in Game 2. I called this the Battle of the Boomers because of Zap versus Bera, but I think the real story here is Cuvo and Scary D basically running this whole set.
Not only that, it just like I wasn't even looking at the ADCs, to be honest. I was looking at the Robin support, the set mid. Like,
Sure.
what even happened this game? I don't like. I genuinely don't know.
PK's superpower is playing up versus the lower teams.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand it. I think this is probably very controversial, especially because he has a lot of fanboys. But Paul is just such a different player versus like the worst teams than he is versus the top teams. I think Paul goes from like, honestly, I think Paul, when he's playing versus the top teams, is one of the worst mid laners in the SPL. And I think when he plays versus the lower seeded teams, he's like one of the best, if not the best mid laner in SPL. And it's so surprising to me that he is like so inconsistent, and how much he changes his playstyle versus different teams.
Do you think it's like a confidence thing or something else?
I think
absolutely all of PK. that's kind of the thing.
I think I don't know what it is about him, but I think he cares about his KD. Maybe like I'll never get over it. Like last year, in the 2 phases, we beat them 6-0. We didn't lose a Saint in the regular season. We didn't lose a set to them, and every single game in those 2 sets, Paul didn't die a single time. Like, how is that ever possible that you're losing 6-0 and you didn't die? That is just like playing for KD. That is just bad. I would rather my mid lane be like 1-30 than just not die at all, because that just means they're just running away.
So you're the one telling Twig to go in.
I think Ben's the one telling himself to go in.
Probably all the aggressive dashing characters. No, this was definitely it felt to me like the team was playing a bit skittish, a bit scared against the higher end, but they look comfy. They're not just comfy, kind of arrogant going against Renegades.
You could say that. I mean, I definitely think this was a case of playing with their food. They saw Game 1 and they were like, yeah, no, Cubo popped off. We can do whatever the hell we want in Game 2. And even if we lose, it doesn't matter. We come back, play the normal stuff again, and then beat him in Game 3.
Sure. I gotta ask, because I talked to Neil earlier on in the phase, and he said that, and I know from his videos with the PK guys, that they, as a team, I think, feel maybe that they lose a little bit by not playing in the studio. Do you think that maybe some of the confidence comes from, all of them being there together? Because I feel like Zap is probably not lacking in the confidence at all, and maybe that might be a little bit contagious.
To me, that is like the lamest excuse ever. That like teams think that they're playing worse because they're not aligned. Literally every single team is the exact same way. We would be playing way better if we were at the LAN. Obviously, like we're scrimming every day with Max and Alec. Not even at the gaming house because they still live at home. I just, it's crazy to me that teams think that like that just because they would be playing a LAN that they would have a big advantage when every single team would get an increase in playing a LAN. So I think it's kind of just a big cop out when teams say that if we were at LAN, we'd be playing better. I think every team would be playing better if they were at LAN.
You think the inverse exists? The old Landonster curse?
No, I don't think so.
They get more nervous and.
I can't think of a team that would play worse at a LAN. To be honest, like there's a difference between playing at the studio and playing like in front of a crowd. That is a different argument to make. But just playing at the LAN, there's no difference in my opinion.
I mean, but that's also to say, like, how much would they increase, right? Because let's just say a team is, like, on the more, like, emotional side. They take morale and with stride or whatever. Do you think that there is a difference between those teams, at least in that way? So, like, a team that really runs with morale, or, like, they lose a game and they feel like crap afterward. If they're all in the same room, right? In theory, it's a lot easier to get them to cheer up faster or something.
if they think that them playing at a LAN or at the studio would make them better, why doesn't Zap just go to the house? Because he's the only one that's not at their house playing in the same room. What's the difference?
He wants to see his opponent.
What?
He needs to go live in the ghost house.
At the studio, you can't see the opponents. You have to stand up, and then even then, you'd only see the top of their hair.
Yeah,
like you can't see your opponents there still.
That's all I need.
Like the top of their hair.
I just need that bowl cut. That's it.
So I don't know. I just think it's like obviously some teams would maybe get affected by it more, but PK's excuse doesn't even make, or maybe it's not an excuse, but PK's or Neil's statement doesn't make sense because Zap could just go to the gaming house anyway if they think that would improve them. And there's not much difference between playing in a room than playing at the studio. Yeah. So.
All right. Any final thoughts about this set? I know we really didn't talk about the set mid that much, but it just seems like I guess that's a Paul God now.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think set's a good god, and you can make it work in mid. Then that's good. I mean, I think there's so many gods that you can make work anywhere.
Sure.
And I think PK is like a good team that will experiment with everything. That I think if they're gonna pull out a weird god, then PK is gonna do the best with it.
Moving on to SSG versus E United, and I gotta say, I think E United is looking a lot better, especially in this phase so far, taking this set to 3 games. And GuyJ has seemed to found maybe a safe pick in the Freya now, but SSG just a little bit too much for them in the end. Initial thoughts on SSG versus E United?
Well, now, have they actually done better? Because historically, E United had SSG's number.
Well, sure, but I mean, technically better because, if you take a game, you get some points for that, I believe, right?
Yeah, well...
I think so.
With I would say it's fair to say that E United have improved because they're kind of like a brand new team compared to how they were in Phase 2. They have a player that role swapped, and they have a player that has never played comp. And has hardly played Smite. Like, GuyJ hasn't played that much Smite in general. Like, he's a newish player.
Really?
Yeah.
When he come in?
He was, like, in SOC.
He was in SCC for, like, a phase and then got brought up.
When I was talking to Herwin last week, he said he has only been playing competitive, like, the SOC level, SML level for the past year.
Yeah.
How long has he been playing Smite, though?
Maybe like 3 or 4 years. I think.
Oh God, he's a baby.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say that United have improved because I just kind of view them as a different team. Because there's so much like difference. Like Genetics will just has a way different god pool than Snoopy has right now. I think Snoopy is just kind of like a mini PBM. I think maybe he's just like a PBM fanboy. He just kind of picks what Mike does. So I think it's fair to say that they've improved.
Well, no wonder GuyJ's been doing so well. He's got those young reflexes.
I do.
No wonder they took a game off. Raffer couldn't turn fast enough.
I do. One thing I do think about that set is though I still think I like GuyJ a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think he has a really long way to go before he can compete properly. I mean. His slash lines are really good in this set, but if you look at his individual play, there were a lot of choke moments and a lot of weird decision making that he made. There was one team fight he made at Gold Fury where he missed 4 shots on a Kali that didn't have jump and her ult had ended, and any one of those shots would have killed her, and they would have won that team fight if he had hit them. And then later on, like Nika's chasing him and he whooped him, and it was just Nika there, and he could have 1v1'd Nika and killed him guaranteed, but he didn't take the 1v1, ran away, and then died. Like there's still so many things that he needs to improve on. I think it just comes with like more. So even though his slash lines were good in this set, I think he has like a really really long way to go.
Sure.
I do think Snoopy. Go ahead.
Go on. No, go on.
I do think Snoopy played kind of sick in this set though. I think Snoopy really improved.
Yeah, I agree.
With the GuyJ thing, I've not been impressed by his god pool. It's very up and almost cliche for the up and comers, where they do have their kind of meta slave picks and they can play them. So it's also somewhat the virtue of the character itself, where you got the Ools, the Xingweis, the Freyas, all this kind of stuff. I want to see him pull something out that's kind of just his, and either run a game with it or at the very least survive. Because all I'm seeing right now is these are the ranked characters. These are the I want to sub in for a team one day, And I know that all the ADCs play this character. As long as he doesn't do Soul, though, I'm okay with it.
That's the one. We put our foot down on that one in the past when we talked about it with Vera playing. So I think we're over Soul as a character.
Sure. I gotta mention the Rat Jungle here. This is kind of the first time we've seen Rat Jungle in the SPL, I think.
I think Lasbra did it, didn't he?
I don't know if it was before or after.
It's been pretty fringe if it has been picked. I don't know if it's been picked. It's like since the rework.
I think Lasbra did pick it in one of the PK games, but I know Scream played it twice here, and I think he did also play it against Radiance. Correct?
I think.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. That sounds in the ballpark of being right.
We played it, I think, in one of our sets. I
that
think
does
we played
sound
it
right.
versus Obey.
Yeah, that does sound right. Like, I think people have been going a couple different acorns here. You know, people going for getting more of the actual nuts on the 3, and sometimes going for the other one, which gives you double prot shred on the 2 because you get to cast it twice. What are your thoughts? Is there an OP acorn on Rat in the jungle? Or I know our friend Duke Sloth put out a big video about how the damage numbers come out based on the acorns, and that kind of misleading for a lot of things. What are your thoughts, Slainy?
I think that the only viable acorn, personally, I think the only viable acorn is the one, I think it's Bramblethorn, whichever one that like makes it a 5. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Whichever, yeah, the 5 acorn one. I think that's the only viable opinion. The other, the issue with Rat is he's always been a snowbally character, and the rework, or like the acorn rework, didn't really change any of like the issues that he had or increase the strengths that he had. Like obviously you could get like the crit acorn and just snowball, but he was one of the best snowballing characters anyway. And the difference with the 5 acorn stun one is that you can be at a much further range to stun. Like it's almost like a guaranteed stun. You just like are somewhat in range of them. So I think the only viable one would be that one. Otherwise, he's just the same character that he's always been, which has just kind of been like a mediocre snowball versus like team character. But that acorn makes him not so much that.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree with the 5 acorn one being the best one. If the double prot shred one worked a little bit differently, then I think it could also be moderately viable, but that's more of like a solo thing, and even Rat solo is like not so much a thing right now. But I don't know. I think if Thor is viable in solo, I think he could also work as well with that acorn. But you know, even the Thor solo thing is kind of on the fringe as well. So I don't know,
the issue
experiment type of deal.
Sorry for the issue with like the prot shred. One is that Rats 2 is terrible. It's just a really bad ability.
Sure.
It's like cool. I get to cast this terrible ability twice. Woo! So I don't know.
Even 2 times of a terrible ability doesn't make it good.
I'm pretty I guess it's not that, like it's probably good mid game. You could sell it late game and get a different acorn, but like the issue is late game or even mid game. I'm pretty sure it's like a loss of DPS to your 2. I'm pretty sure you do more auto attack damage.
But then you get more protections.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You get 2 times the protections, but you only steal 1 times the protections.
I'm still okay with that twice gain. That's like Fenrir ult or something.
It's not that much, though.
Wouldn't you rather just get like the 3-1 where they upgraded 3 and just stun them from miles away?
Yeah, I'd rather they be dead than me be tanky. Yeah. I don't think I was watching closely enough, but in game 2, Raffer whipped out Yamoja Emperor's armor, and I don't know if he was stunning towers. I wasn't paying enough attention. Did anyone see if he happened to use his one on the tower?
Anymore, right?
No, you can. It still stuns towers.
Yeah, it stuns towers.
Oh, in Conquest too? Okay.
It's like one of the most random things ever, but it doesn't.
This is so strange.
I don't think that's I've ever seen like a Yamoja stun a tower and it like actually be worth it.
I did, no, to be worth it, no. I always look for a reason, but no. even with Emperors and with the freaking stun on the tower, I don't think it's useful. I don't know why he built it though.
I don't think Rafa just like kind of like how I said he just closes his eyes and picks a god. I think he does the same thing with builds. So I think Rafa's always been like that though.
Chalk it up to senility, right?
That's it. What? It's time for the home rapper.
We love Raffer. Didn't he have a birthday recently too? Happy birthday, Raffer.
Is he like 70 now or what?
60. Mind your manners. I think they've got some pretty good thinkers on that team, but they also they sort of construct meta adjacent to the ones that already exist. So his is always odd to see. He's got the experimentation. And I don't know if he considers it viable because it worked when it shouldn't have, or maybe against a lower team or something. I don't know how scrims are going. Maybe someone's in his ears just vote going, yeah, go for it. Do whatever you want. Or maybe vote saying no, and he just can't understand them.
All right, then. Well, moving on to the next Ghost set this week, which was Ghost versus Obey. And again, game 1, pretty one-sided, but game 2, I think Obey fought in pretty well. What do you think changed from game 1 to game 2 from Obey's perspective that made them fight in, a little bit harder? Slainy?
Maybe Kasir showed up. Game 1, their draft was like, what are they doing? Like they kind of just.
Yeah. What was that?
We had Persephone, Freya, and Nemesis. Okay, I guess we just get to win.
Yeah.
Game 2.
No. Well, you don't like when other teams try to experiment with you.
I mean, they can go for it if they want, but they didn't. Looking at their comp, I don't understand what it would do into ours really.
Yeah.
Game 2, they should have won the game.
Mm-hmm.
We just played really, really badly. Like every single fight, no one would say anything about the Thor. Like there was like 4 or 5 fights in a row where we were like group up and fight. We're like, yeah, we can fight this. Yeah, we can fight this.
Mm-hmm.
And then no one like even mentioned Thor. And then like 4 or 5 fights in a row, Thor just dunked on our carries and just killed them. And they never learned. They were like, maybe we should look for the Thor before we fight.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It's just a bit of deja vu here and there. This to me was, I think I said last week, this was the game that would show how depressed Ghost was. Because I figured the slump was coming. Radiance was going to be a rough set. It could be 2-0 for Radiance. It did end up being a 2-0 for them. This one, I figured you'd lose maybe one game, which you almost did. I doubt you were going to lose both of them, but it was almost is Obey better than Ghost? No, that's not the question. It's more so how much of a slump are Ghost in, and it ended up being not that depressed.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely still see us struggling. Like, if I'm being honest, I would say we're still not like completely out the slump. I think all it could take is like maybe like a set win for us to get out of it. But at the same time, it could also be like we're just still in the slump for a while. But
yeah, would you say this one doesn't feel that satisfying? Because everyone has that uplifting moment of, okay, we went up against it with this team, but was this sort of a just, yeah. If anything, it pissed you off because you almost lost.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably closer to that. I don't think we were happy with like the game 2 anyway. Like game 1, I think we played pretty well. I don't think we could say we were happy with how game 2 went. We should have lost it. So I don't think this would be the set that would break us out of our slump. Even though I think Obey has improved a lot, I just don't see it like breaking the slump that well. I guess the same could kind of be said for United. So
Sure.
Why is Sam so cracked? He has taken almost every first blood in this phase. He's just always so involved.
Teams hate fighting early because their noobs are playing Smite.
Yeah, the level 2 Sam gank always seems to do very well. Any other thoughts about this game before we move on to Radiance versus United, the last set of the week?
Well,
it was just crazy. And game 2, I think, was kind of sloppy all around. But that ending, do you think Obey could have finished that off? I feel like Ducky could have maybe ulted the Titan instead of nothing.
There were like 10 different scenarios. There was like 100 scenarios in that game where they could have ended, and they chose the one that didn't end. So.
Yeah, Barry was going through it on stream. He was like going like frame by frame, like what a villain could have done. And I was like, there were so many different things they could have done, but yeah, they picked the one that was just the wrong answer.
Yeah. I do want to say though that I think Obey has improved a lot. I think that the league will, by the end of the phase, I genuinely think any team can take a game off of any team. So I think they should be happy with how they played that set.
I'd agree with that, unless they hit their slump near the end. That's like that's honestly the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
No one really takes into account the kind of psychological waves that every team goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And slumps are almost inevitable. If you're going to have it near the end of the phase, that's the most unfortunate time to do it.
All right, well, moving on to Radiance versus E United. And E United, again, put up a big fight in this one, took a game off of Radiance, which I don't think any of us expected. I think last week all of us predicted 2-0 for Radiance. So the fact that E United was able to take a game, I think shows that E United is really making some strides in how they're playing against these teams. Any initial thoughts? Or, I think, Guy J had a pretty good set in this one too. And, Poseidon Jungle is a question mark for me. What do you guys think?
Poseidon Jungle is bad. I just think they picked it into a comp where it just straight up did not make sense. I think if you're picking Poseidon Jungle, it has to be into very specific characters, and that was absolutely not the draft to do it.
Well, Poseidon's always been like historically the best pick into Hercules, kind of. But I think frontline killing is maybe not the way to play Smite right now. I think there's like too much HP, which is like kind of like the best early and mid game stat to have for like a tank. So I think there's still cases to have like the Poseidon into the Hercules. I just don't know if right now is the time to be doing it with like stuff like Sledge.
Is it just too honorable because he didn't? There's no Hecate. There's no Spear of the Magus. He's just this is an old school. Even Pythags. This is very. I will play with the team.
He just wanted to be Sonic. He had Pixel Blade and Zoom Orb. He was just getting in there.
Yeah, I just didn't get it. He picked it into Olaran Robin, and I'm like, okay. I mean, cool.
Did he pick it into the Robin, or did he pick it like? Yeah,
yeah.
That's kind of weird. But scream is scream. Who knows what he thinks?
Scream gonna scream, right?
I guess.
Yeah, the Rob was picked early, and then he picked his Poseidon second to last. Interesting choice there.
Definitely not Harry's best set either. Probably his worst set.
Oh no.
I would say.
I wonder how he's doing. It's almost like a repeat of what was it, season?
Are you hungry for more?
No. When he was on Obey, he was pretty much solo carrying and just couldn't do anything.
Picking those Thanatos every single game.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about this game?
I mean, it's good to see United taking games, especially against the teams that we're considering the top, because that just means they, even though they are last in the standings, they haven't found a set win. They definitely, I think, are showing more promise than Obey. I think that's arguable, of course, but I don't know. I've been impressed so far, but it's going to be all about how people are playing up into it, because I think the dual lane is definitely a weakness for these guys, and it's really been showing.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's get into the picks for next week. I guess this is week 5, week 6?
6.
Week
Coming
6?
up. Yep. Week 6.
I think SSG versus PK is the first game of the week. Frost, you want to start us off this week? SSG versus PK. Who you got?
That's just SSG all the way. I think they've got a, like I said, their comps are meta adjacent. I don't think PK is going to be ready for it, and I definitely don't think we're going to see freaking Rob supports.
I hope not. We're seeing Hachiman.
I think that's just 2-0. 2-0 for SSG.
Sure. Lermy, let's go to you next.
I'm going to give PK a little bit of credit. I totally agree that, Space Station is going to pull out something, that maybe Knights are not ready for, but I have faith in Chuck. I have faith in the boys, and Cubo is on a hot streak right now. So I'm going to say 2-1, but still for Space Station.
All right. Slainy, are you going for SSG like the other two?
I don't know. I think it kind of... I mean, this will always be my opinion on this team, but I think it's going to depend on how Paul plays. I think if he ever gets over his desire to keep a good KDA, then he could solo carry this team. So I'm gonna say hopeful, and I think PK could 2-1 SSG.
Hey, okay. I'm a Zapman fanboy through and through, so I gotta vote for my boys PK. I'm giving it to I love Raffer too, man. Oh, this is tough. SSG versus PK, my boys. I'm going to go 2-1 PK. I think Qville has actually been playing really, really well the past 2 weeks. And I think if he can sort of maybe hard carry some of these sets, this can build a little bit of confidence and momentum with the PK boys. So I got 2-1 for PK here. All right, next up, is Sanguine versus Renegades. Let's start with you, Lermy Wormy. Actually, no. Let's start with you, Lermy Wormy.
All right, so I think it's definitely Vamos season, and this is a big old fat 2-0 for Sanguine. I don't think there's a shot really that Renegades can get one off of that. I just think that at this point, Panatom's figured out his characters. There was a little bit where he was kind of shaky, not really sure if he was fitting in really well, but I think that they are now hitting their stride. They've gotten over the slump that they were in at the beginning of the phase, and there's no way that they would win.
Slainy, who you got? Sanguine versus Renegades.
I'm going to keep it short because there's stuff I can't say, but Sanguine will 2-0.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it short, but give me spoilers.
Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Frost?
2-0 Sanguine. Renegades, I think, used to have that kind of X factor in Jake. I think that's been tamed down a bit. And Sanguine is by far one of the more patient, yet also cohesive teams. So I think it's going to be Sanguine. I don't know if they'll W key all over Renegades, but they're definitely going to win 2-0.
Sure. I'm just disappointed at Jake picking Fafnir all the time. Stop picking Fafnir. Please pick Tyr. Please pick Scylla. Pick something fun. Carry the game, Jake. That being said, I think Barra's gonna be good for the boys this week and hard carry game. So I got 2-1 for Sanguine. All right, Ghost versus United is the next game this set, and United was basically the only was the first team to give you guys a loss in Phase 1.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about United right now, especially seeing how they've been improving? I'll start with you, Slainy.
It's probably going to be a 2-1 because we will be trolling. I think United has improved a lot, but
How many teams do that? Where it's like we won the first game, second one's not nearly as serious.
I think PK are probably similar to that.
Yeah.
PK, even like last year, they were pretty similar to us. I think they were the most aggressive team outside of us as well. So, but yeah, you can always expect us or PK to go to lose the second set because we fuck around too much.
Sure. All right, Frost, how about you?
Goes 2-1 if they're trolling.
Already confirmed by Slainy, I guess, right?
Do you think
we will be trolling?
So since they're trolling, it's going to be 2-1 for sure. I don't think this rehashed United has the same stopping power as the old one, so I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue, even if it's a slump still.
Sure. Lermy, what about you?
I'm in the same boat. I think that, United have been showing that they are capitalizing on a lot of mistakes that they haven't been in the past couple of weeks, and they are slowly growing. So I think that 2-1 still for Ghost, but United is going to have a pretty good set.
Perfect. All right. RNG versus Obey. I think I started with you, Frost, so let's go back to you again with this one. Who you got RNG versus Obey?
This one's so weird to me just because it usually comes down to the dual lane between these guys. It's, the games are decided by mid 3, but this is the kind of game, if any, where Barra's going to stomp out and where Jake's going to completely run over Obey. But Wowie has that sort of Kingslayer feel about him. He has higher level ADC's number in his pocket. I think Jake's gonna go on a rampage, but I think it's gonna be a 2-1.
2-1 for Renegades. All right.
Yeah, 2-1 Renegades.
Lermy Wormy, who you got in this? Renegades versus Obey.
You know what? I think the highlight matchup that I'm looking at the most is going to be Lazra versus Sino. And honestly, we've been seeing Sino dip back into the Warriors a little bit more. So I think this week, for sure, he's finally off his bullshit. And he's back in business here. So, I think that there might be a little bit of trolling from Bobby, maybe. So as long as there's no Ymir picks, I think Obey take this 2-1. But
okay.
Pending Ymir pick, Renegades will take it.
Okay. So that's 2-1 to Obey for you?
Yeah.
Slainy?
I think Obey 2-0. I think that the Obey as this meta is like the best meta that it could be for them. I think Cupid being meta is obviously Wowie's best god. Cupid's like really strong right now. I think they've started to realize that Ducky can really farm on carry type of characters, and I think they'll pick them more. And I think that the strongest they've been in a long time, like the stuff like before. I think that Sino is like playing really well, even if he's playing weird picks. I think if he finds either a weird pick that really works for him, or he like kind of meta slaves that they're going to pop off. And I think Wolfie has also been like he's been popping off with the Ra. I just think this is like the perfect like place that Obey need to be in to start improving with the meta. So I genuinely think Obey is going to 2-0, but it could go any direction. It could be a 2-1 to either team. It could be a 2-0 to either team.
Sure. I generally feel the same way about it. I think it's basically a toss-up here. I hope Jake plays something aggressive, man. I missed the tier. Jake, just play the tier, please. I don't know who to pick. You gave a pretty good vote of confidence, Obey 2-0, so I think I'll give it to Obey. Obey 2-1, I hope it's a nice long set and we get to see these teams really try some new things and maybe show some consistency, maybe. Let's see what happens. All right. Sanguine versus SSG.
Oof.
This is going to be, I guess, a barn burner. I think, let's start with you, Lermy Wormy. Who you got in this?
Gosh, yeah, like you said, this one's going to be very, very close. And I think it's going to be, the team that wakes up better. I think they are practically even when it comes to skill. And, whoever has the better game that day is really going to be the one that has the advantage in terms of skill. I mean, it's so hard to say, but it's hard to vote against Sanguine, right? I'm going to say 2-1 Sanguine because they're my boys. I believe in them.
All right, Vamos Sanguine from Lermy Wormy. Slainy, is it just to who gets up on the right side of the bed?
Yeah, I kind of just agree with everything Lummy said, but I think if I'm going to go off like what I said earlier, where I think that PK could be SSG, I think if PK beats SSG, I think it will either go like two extreme ways where SSG are like we shouldn't have lost that set, we need to improve, or they're going to be like, I hate you, you're the worst player ever, like to each other. But I don't think SSG are like that. I think they have some rages on their team, but I think they're like pretty constructive with raging, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think SSG win it.
Cherry's pretty constructive with his raging.
Hold on, you gotta give a prediction here for the games.
I think I'm gonna say 2-0 to
2-0 SSG. All right,
yeah.
Frost, let's finish this one up with you. Sanguine versus SSG.
2-0 SSG. To me, Space Station is just Sanguine Prime. But it just, it's gonna come down to vote. He's been very hot or cold, but I think he's kind of got his head in a better spot now. Still, 2-0 commit to the Space Station win.
I saw Raffers said he's probably going to be streaming more. He updated his Discord, so that's got me feeling good about SSG this week. I think SSG are going to take this one 2-1. Last game of the week, Radiance versus PK. I think we have to start with you, Mr. Slainy. Who do you got in this one?
I actually think maybe I'm like overvaluing PK, but I think PK could win this set. I don't think it's likely. I think Radiant's probably just the second best team right now. But I kind of like have faith in the way that PK play the game a bit more than any other team. But I think it's just safe to say that Radiant's probably just 2-0 them.
Sure. Frost, what about you?
I've got Radiance on the 2-0, but yeah, it's Chuck's got quite a mind of his own, and if he can get the boys under his wing, they could whip something out. But I think Radiance, if they continue with the consistency they've been showing, it'll be a pretty clean 2-0.
Sure. All right, let's wrap it up with you, Lermy Wormy. Radiance versus PK.
Yeah, I'm on that same boat. If Radiance come in as consistent as they've been and they, they just show up like they normally do, like the routine, just little SPL match to end off the day, I think it's going to be 2-0 for them. I could see Knights taking a game, but they're going to have to pull out some weird shit, I feel like. They're going to have to go and dip their toes into the Hachimon support that Neil likes to tout. If he thinks it's time, maybe he whips it out.
Okay.
Just don't go Raven support levels.
I like my PK guys to get at least one game. I somehow feel like there's a lot of parity in the league, especially when we have some of the lower teams playing against each other. So I never want to give it like a straight 2-0 or something like that. So I'll say 2-1 to Radiance in this one. I know it's great to have Slainy on. So you guys have any questions for him, maybe why don't we do that right now? Because I have a question if you guys don't have anything.
I'll start off with yours. Feel free.
Yeah,
Sure.
good.
So I think you guys have played every team in the league at least once now. Is that right?
Yeah. It's
Uh,
the reset is basically for us next week on United.
Sure. Right. Yes. So having played all the teams so far, are there teams that you enjoy playing against or even preparing for more than others?
I'm not entirely sure. I think every team has a very unique playstyle right now.
Mhm.
I think everyone's just like relatively different. Like there's like certain teams that just kind of like gravitate towards late game, but they'll do it in different ways. So maybe it's like a cop out by saying that I don't have like a favorite team to prep against because I think they're all different, which makes it kind of fun.
Mhm.
And it's like kind of hard to guess like how some teams will draft or how drafts will go some ways. So I'm just gonna give like a boring answer and say I don't really have a favorite team to play against or to prep against because I think that they're all like really intelligent teams and they all have intelligent coaches and players. So
Sure.
So a team you hate prepping against?
What about
Ooh.
least favorite? Maybe is there just a team that you really maybe I don't want to say struggle because sometimes a struggle can be like a good struggle, but like maybe that annoys you to prep for.
Well, I mean, there's always like I'll give like a troll answer-ish, but it's
Mhm.
like somewhat true is like E United because they
Mhm.
have Snoopy.
Sure.
Snoopy's our kryptonite.
Okay.
But I think it's kind of weird because I say about PK that I love like I have the most like faith in them of how they play Smite, which is just kinda, like early game focused a bit. But I also think that it's so weird to me that the players that they have just don't play very well a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Like Cuvo, I think is like one of the best junglers ever, but I think he's like just playing shit sometimes. I think Paul is like the most overrated mid in the history of Smite. But he's like mechanically insane, so it doesn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
So I would say maybe like drafting or playing against PK because they just confuse me.
Sure.
They just confuse me as players.
I got another one if you guys don't have anything.
I mean, yeah, mine's a little less Smite related and more so team related. So up to you.
Mine was about hell. Like we're on the topic of PK as well.
Sure, yeah. Let's talk about how.
My man never dropping a game, always getting banned out, to losing one, and then he doesn't touch her ever again.
Yeah,
What do you feel about Paul's hell? We've got a lot of players who have iconic gods. What's so special about his, and is it still a thing?
I think Hell is just like a god that if you make one mistake against it, she'll like flip the game around on its head, and then you just kind of can't come back into it. And I think the way Paul plays versus those teams, it's like because he plays so far back and plays for his like life so hard that it's so hard to punish the Hell. And then if you try and punish it and you fuck up even slightly, then it will make the Hell like just unstoppable. But I think in that loss, Paul was like, I have no idea if this is what it's like, but he's like, the way I usually play isn't working this meta, so I can't do it. Because the meta right now is diving. Hell doesn't really live dives that well.
Would Twig ever, did he ever consider picking up a Hell just to take it away from him?
I think we
I
played
think
it in
he did.
MSI.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think we played it in MSI in like the second versus SSG.
Frost, you might
But-
have to go back and check the extended cut of our
Oh, yeah.
Are you really a ghost fan?
Which is
What
on,
just happened?
You said against
Apex
SSG though.
Productions.
I'm saying against Pittsburgh.
Oh, would we like take it away from them?
Yeah,
Probably,
take it away from Paul, not just play it.
Probably not. I don't think it would be like kind of pick that would we want. I didn't think it'd be like we'd just rather throw it away. I think, and then just figure out the issue is like with Smite. A lot of the time, like people's comfort picks are more dangerous than like OP picks because teams are noobs and scrims and just ban the god permanently and then don't know how to play it. So I think it's better to just ban out comfort picks a lot of the time. Not every time, obviously, but yeah, I couldn't see us ever like just picking Hell to take it away from them.
Yeah, so I remember last phase, you guys letting it go free. Was that like to try and get some information? Like, how often do you guys experiment or play info games as opposed to just let's go, let's win this?
I think a lot of the time, actually, we're like experimenting on how we can deal with a pick. Like without like giving away too much. I think we even if we think a character's really OP, I think it's better to figure out a way to like deal with that character rather than on them every time.
Yeah, because it's way better to do it like during the regular season than during a tournament setting. I remember because I streamed during the Ghost games. People are yelling last phase, ban out Shinto's Merlin, ban out Paul's Hell. Like, wow, they just lost this in the draft. So it was better to lose in the draft now than in the at MSI.
Agreed.
I guess to kind of piggyback off that question, one pick that we were talking about last week was Dardas' Hera. How do you kind of feel like Hera fits into the meta? Like, do you think it's going to be a pick that other people are going to try and pick up, or is it just a Dardas thing?
I would be surprised if other teams didn't pick it more. I think mid right now is like, it doesn't really matter what you play as long as it fits what your team does. It's like you'll see stuff like Shinto. He does nothing for the first 15 minutes, literally nothing. He will kill anything that doesn't kill him instantly. So he'll like just farm the map and do nothing until 15 minutes. Whereas like we'll play like pressure through mid and like kind of like rotate through the map with it. So I think and Hera is obviously like a nuts character like mid late game. So I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I would be surprised if a team didn't pick it up more.
I'll keep on going this. Like, we're talking about focusing out certain people. Is that something that you specifically game plan for in terms of, like, not the picks and bans, but maybe, like, the gameplay or the style? You know, I asked this because I was playing in an arena tournament yesterday, and I'm a noob. And, you know, the problem of knowing pros is you want to play with pros in these community tournaments. And I just get, you know, I'm like a heat-seeking. You know, everyone's killing me on cooldown, and I can't do anything, you know, because I suck at this game. I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but is that something that you guys think about or game plan for? And like, you don't have to talk specifically about anybody. Is that like somewhat of the thought process that goes on?
I mean, kind of. You have to like play around what you think a team's weak point is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think a player like has a weak point, so let's. I mean, I've kind of been dunking on him. I don't want it to come across that way, but
sure.
But like, let's just go to Paul, for example, where I think that he plays for his KDA. That means we could maybe look for red invade a lot easier. And I'm not saying this is true, but like hypothetically,
sure.
If Paul is playing really far back, it would make going for red invades a lot easier. So versus PK, we could potentially try and have pressure in mid and go for the reds. So it's like it kind of is that way where you have to focus on what teams' weak points are, whether it be their picks or whether it be the way that they play the game.
Sure.
So that's why your red buff's constantly getting invaded. Either they're probably anticipating Twig's not going to let go of that red, and he's just going to try and run it down. So it has turned out with, like, say, Sam picks up two, or a few games, Twig and Sam die out on their own red. Huh.
I think I'm all out of questions here. You guys have anything else?
Sucky yummy.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's a big one.
Oh, fuck that god. Fuck that god.
Already? Oh, he just came out. Come on now.
Why do they have the PTS? Release the god if you're not going to do anything about it. Dude, I didn't play the PTS, but I watched a lot of videos on it. And I saw on Twitter, everyone was like, this god is broken. Like obviously there's like clickbait shit, but like everyone was saying this god is broken and posting clips where they would just ult. And they didn't change, ult someone and just kill them. And they didn't change a single number. Why do they have the PTS? What is going on there?
People ask me all the time, yeah, you're going to play PTS? You're going to play PTS? Nah, like, if I do go on there and the character's busted, I'm just going to be pissed because they don't change anything when we go to live.
Yeah. It's just very confusing to me why that character is allowed to... It's confusing to me because the numbers are obviously broken. You could play the character one time and press your 4 key at any point in the game, whether it be level 5 or level 20, and you one-shot someone, you're like, okay, maybe I should lower the number on this. But I guess Hi-Rez decided they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the process on it, but they do put out the PTS with plenty of time for there to be changes, because I know at least think I'm allowed to say that it takes like a week or so, or even up to 2 weeks to get like all of the certifications and stuff. And that's just kind of a symptom of being available on so many platforms, is that they need to, have all the changes finalized a very long time before it actually goes live. So, it's all that question of, are they able to continue to make this balance and stuff, before all the stuff is due? So I don't know. Like, I don't have insider info on that, but that could be another process.
It feels like almost like PTS is more of a sneak peek, and unless you find something devastatingly broken, I'm not changing it because it's already been turned in.
I'm just gonna put on my K-capitalist conspiracy hat here for a second and say that having OP gods when they first come out is a very effective marketing tool to drive new players to the game. That's all I'm gonna say.
That I agree with that, and I think gods should release strong. I think like Baba, like as an example, like Baba Yaga's like, I think she's like one of the least played gods right now, and I think a big reason of that is because she came out like absolutely shit, like terrible.
So fine though.
But the thing that I don't understand, like, I would understand your point, Lummy, if it was like the way like the kit is designed. So let's say like Cthulhu, where like it's just the kit is just like hard to balance, but Tsukiyomi just has bloated numbers, and you can hotfix the numbers whenever they want, because that just gets pushed through them. They don't have to like get loads of certification, because it's not like a download. It just goes through the game, No one has to download number changes. So go ahead.
Suku feels like his kit design doesn't feel too problematic. Like it's just a tweaking of numbers. Cthulhu's, he's got a problematic kit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all just coming down to that ultimate. So it's I don't know how how did Cthulhu come through, and how did Tsukiyomi make it live?
Yeah, like I obviously like they have to cater to the normal player base, because that's their biggest thing. Like a lot of people don't play ranked, so them making Cthulhu such a, like, he is a really cool character, like the way he like looks and everything, like they did an awesome job, like the way his kit looks and is just awesome. So I can kind of understand why the kit is like problematic. I just don't understand Tsukiyomi, because kit isn't problematic. They just have.
I mean, the ultimate is a little problematic.
Well, just remove the damage mitigation and then lower the damage, or lower the damage.
Here's the thing. Duke Sloth released a video on this too, because they were just experimenting with all the interactions, and it'll still hit you in jumps. Like, if you are in the play area, you get marked by it. So there's like no counter to it other than Aegis. And that's about it. Like, if they made a way to like cleanse the marks or something, then I think it would make a little more sense. But the fact of the matter is, you can go up in Apollo ult and die in Apollo ult, and things like that. So I mean, it's a little busted in that regard, that there's no safety other than Aegis.
Well, do you think that's problematic though? Because I think like that would you say Zeus 3 is problematic then?
That's what I'm thinking. I think the issue there is the juxtaposition of Zeus 3 Nuwa Ultimate. They're targeting you with something, as opposed to Tsukiyomi. It's just the animation of him going to you. It's just the flavor text saying he's dashing to you. If you think of it more as Zeus 3 Nuwa Ult, then are people okay with it?
That's a interesting point to bring up, Frost.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay that it can hit you. I think it was obviously their design is like a bug. It's just so confusing to me. Like maybe they could remove that, but I think the problematic thing, maybe problematic's not is a bad word to use, but like the bad thing about the kit for his ult is that it has 50% damage reduction. Why does that's what Shock has? Like, why does he have what Shock has? And I'm pretty sure it lasts longer, or like the same length as a Shock ult.
It can go longer.
It also can hit for like 8,000 total damage on 3 people.
Yeah.
Like, whilst also then making him untargetable afterwards. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me why he has 50% damage reduction. He's already CC immune. Why does he need damage reduction?
It's really weird too. I don't know how the dash works. I know he's vulnerable at times, but I don't know when, because I let loose a full ultimate. I had 100 health, a full ultimate into an enemy team. Their Chalk was ulting his own team. I should have been dead to rights. Even with 50% damage mitigations, I didn't take any damage. I went through the full animation, didn't take anything, got 2 kills and walked out.
Yeah,
I don't know if those are bugs. I don't know if it's a odd design.
Because I've had it both ways, where we both have played Tsukiyomi to Diamond already, and there have been a lot of experiences where I believe I've died in the dashes, and other times where I should have died in the dashes, I don't. So I don't know, like you said, if that is a bug, but it can just be very inconsistent, I feel like.
I'm sure there are a lot of competing factors too, with like lifesteal and all sorts of crazy things coming into play.
It's pretty weird though, because I mean, I haven't played him nearly as much as you guys, like probably like a tenth of the time you have, because I don't play that many normals. But it's weird because, well, it's not weird, but he's like untargetable. But I think he loses the damage mitigation when he's like teleporting. So like dots will still do like full damage to you. So maybe it's just like the type of characters that you were playing against. I'm not sure.
Could be latency too. No, I've smacked him out of it. As a Tsukuyomi, I just started auto attacking while he's dashing me and killed him.
Really?
Yeah.
He can get hit by some things and not by others. Like, for instance, his own spikes work. Like, if you put down the count traps, he will take damage to the count
murders
traps,
himself,
not other stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's really fun.
He's his own biggest counter.
Yeah, it really is.
He really is. It's actually been fun. It's the only character I've enjoyed mirror matching with.
Well, I mean, on her, right? On her counters on her, right?
in a sense, yeah.
In a way,
the next wave of the gentleman's duel, huh?
Tsukiomi versus
That
That doesn't sound as fun.
He's so good. I expect to see him in the SPL, even in the dual lane. He just murders you with the ultimate.
I mean, he can kind of like be what Camazot's was when his sustain was absolutely bonkers, right? I mean, he's just a bully. Like, that's basically it.
I think he's inconsistent. It's also what you said with like Baba was considered weak, but she also did come out with quite a few bugs. Right now, he has bugs too, but they're in his favor. Like the two, you can crowd control them, but it either doesn't go on cooldown, or once the crowd control's over, he keeps on going. Where his animation stopped, he keeps doing it.
Yeah, it's inconsistent, but I mean, me personally, I enjoy it. We'll have to see if it's still going to be as good in the SPL, but he'll be allowed starting next patch, right? Like the next big patch
in SPL.
Yeah, maybe starting September 5th or something like that.
It's a week after they are enabled in ranked.
Gotcha. Okay.
That you're allowed to play them in SPL whenever he's available in ranked. Because I don't even know when he's. I think it's a month usually after, right?
I used to think it was like after a new god comes out, the old one is ranked available, but
I think it's a month.
At some point.
Yeah, because they released the gods way slower.
Yeah.
They just changed it like a month with the release. Put it in rank. Something like that. I could be wrong.
Well, I do agree though. I like OP gods do kind of sell, but quote unquote sell. It's a free to play game, but they drive up the hype a little more. Yeah. But Cthulhu, while he's OP, I think his kit's a wee bit boring. He's just an ult bot.
Yeah, his 1, 2, and 3 are just boring ability.
I've not seen too many of them. I think it just kind of comes down to, God dang it, I have to play it or I lose. In normals, at least.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like it's a crusade for the 30%, right? Like you have to int to get the 30%, but I mean, it's so fun to try and get it sometimes.
You don't even need. Have you gotten it yet?
No.
I don't think you need to though. Like
no, you don't. He's got 20% to begin with.
Exactly. If it was like 10 to 30, then obviously that's a big difference.
Sure.
But
yeah, I mean, it's just like the bar to fill up, you know, like it's just something else to do.
Actually, I kind of like that though. I think it like having an impossible goal, but when you get there, like maybe this is like a really weird like a thing to like compare it to, but like I don't know if any of you play TFT, like team fight tactics in League, where they have some traits that are like so hard to get, but once you get it, you're just having loads of fun. I think that's pretty cool to have in Smite. Maybe it's like not loads of fun with Cthulhu, but just having like really hard challenges to chase is like a cool thing to have.
To me, it's a state of the game bar, kind of. If I ever hit 30% on that, everyone on the enemy team should just be banned outright. Match ends, they're perma-banned. Like, that's it. I had quite a few people trying to get it. One guy got it just because he was in arena against a high-res staff. But I'll message Fine after his Cthulhu games and be like, yo, how high did you get the mitigations? I don't think he ever gets more than like 4 or 5.
I don't think he would even look at the bar. He probably doesn't even know it scales up.
Yeah, he says he just doesn't look. He just runs at people.
He just replied to you saying, wait, that goes to that even goes up?
Wait, which part of the kit is that?
He has a passive?
Apparently not. It's those eye floaters that it gives you with the insanity.
Hey man, but that's not the hardest achievement of the game. But that's
It's the hardest one.
At the time. It is. Oh gosh, wait, let me find it. You have to get like 20 kills with Bird Bomb in one match.
Isn't there one where you have to get 10 or like 15 kills with Tear ult in one game?
Yeah, that one too is really hard.
Jeez. Well, the odd thing about the Cthulhu achievement is probably easier to get for kind of newbie players. They don't stop fighting into each other. Mm-hmm. If you get the insanity on somebody, you're probably going to be able to collect it because they're not going to run away from you.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's kind of nice to have an impossible achievement, but the lower end kind of gets something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an odd balancing thing. I think that's also just it feels bad psychologically. Like Tsukiyomi, you're thinking about it as a guy dashing to where he shouldn't be, where it should just be considered more of like a Zeus 3 or something like that. For Cthulhu, you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm missing out on 10% mitigation. Yeah. I've already got 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's more than a lot of characters.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, I changed my mind about the hardest achievement. It has to be Cupid killing 3 or more gods with one heart bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
There's no shot.
Oh, man.
I still think Tears might be up there though.
I mean, that's
getting 15 kills
because you can get lucky with the Cupid one, right? Like you can,
I guess.
But with the Tier one, you can't. I don't even know if 15? Luck like plays into it. Like,
what's the achievement?
You have to get 15 kills with a Tier ult in one game. It might not be 15, but it's like a pretty high number. It's like 10 or 15.
I think it is 15.
It's 15. Yeah,
it's 15.
Most people don't even get 15 kills in one game, let alone with a Tier ult. Like, Tier ult doesn't even do that much damage.
I'm telling you, these are for achievement hunter. Yeah, I'm not good at the game, but I want to get the achievement kind of players. So. I don't know.
Can you get that achievement in like any game mode? Maybe like Clash or something like that. You just like
you really have.
Yeah, but then you're playing Clash and you're like, is this even worth it?
All I'm saying is I don't see 15 kills happening. Like the only time I've seen over 10 has been with Tsukuyomi.
Yeah, you're talking to a Clash mate right now.
If I see a Tier like getting like if he's like gotten 10 kills with it all, I'm just telling my team to F6. Don't even give it to him.
Yeah, at that point, the game doesn't even go that long.
True.
It's got full cooldown, full power. It's got all the 70 plus power items.
and then you accidentally get a kill with a Crusher instead, and you're just like, whoa.
Oh wow, yeah, that would steal it though. Shoot.
Then you cry.
Also, Chiron. How you feel about Chiron?
Ben likes him. I think he's okay. His ult is just like nuts. I think it's like 270% scaling or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's 90%
per shot. Ridiculous. It's like a ROM ult. Yeah.
He's a mage that does physical damage that has like nice auto attacks, I guess. But
it's 60 times 3, so yeah, 180. That's kind of nutty.
Don't even mention 60? That the one cleanses so that your team can continue the W key.
No offense, but Ben's kind of new with the cleanse. So.
He's a jungler. I honestly feel like you guys talked him into playing mid by saying after 25 minutes you can have the speed buff and Sam gets red.
Well, yeah, when are we going to see the set mid for Twiggy? You know, bring it back to his juggling roots.
Not sure that's his kind of playstyle set, but yeah, I think going on to like that speed thing really quick. I think we're like the only team where like we give the mid lane the speed a lot of the time. Like, I think, like, a lot of the time, especially with, like, Sam's God Pool, just giving him red buff is just OP.
I don't feel like you guys actually have a mid laner. You got, like, 3 junglers. And if Final K's playing Thor, you got 4 of them.
Yeah.
So it's just something to make Twig feel at home.
He actually gets happy when he gets to pick up the speed buff. He's
like,
oh, yes, I get speed.
That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't even want the red buff. Ben just gives away red buffs left and right. Yo, Max, you want this red or what?
So just speed buffs and aggressive dashes keep the boy happy.
And he can dash even quicker with the speed buff.
There you go. I think while Twig does want to be the best, he wants to be the best in his own way. I don't think he'll be satisfied being the best playing like, meta slave picks.
Yeah. I think Ben just has like a different view on a lot of people as well. So.
Oh, he has to be freaking soloing people in the mid laner. Actually, What was it? It was the Halbois game. He rushed Blink Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking he's trying to play Faker right now.
The thing, the Doom, the Ratatouille wasn't even like discussed. He just had enough gold to buy it and just bought it. But I actually think it was like the perfect buy, so I was pretty happy with it.
Oh my god!
Because he usually goes Doom Orb for like the mana sustain.
Yeah, I've not seen that since like freaking Prime. I would like to rush it on Zeus.
And now they're
no, that's Venenu. Venenu was the OG Ratatouille rusher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was well as far as I'm aware. I think Ven always did like, because Ven would play like Zeus and stuff and just rush it.
Well, no counts with that. Any changes do you think are going to happen with these like balance changes? Any changes to the meta? Has this one even been figured out? We had those crazy updates a while ago.
I don't know. I think maybe we'll see a bit less Freya. I think Freya was like slightly like on the decline. Like obviously she's still like a really nuts pick, but I think Freya was slightly on the decline. The all-around changes will probably be big. Bakasura got nerfed for like ranked, I guess. Arachne got nerfed to rank. Persephone will still be broken because she's the worst designed god in the history of Smite.
Well, you don't like that you can't play around her too till it comes at you.
And the fact that she has the most question mark passive ever. Armor won't really. The changes to armor won't really change anything. I think she'll just still be nuts.
Benji won't be able to murder you. That's targeted to him. You know it. How he just he'll walk up to you and knows just how much damage that mirror is gonna do.
Put respect on Nika's armor as well. Come on.
Right.
They're the armor mains.
Yeah.
But I think the Cthulhu and the Umoja nerfs could change something. Maybe not so much Umoja, because I think her 3 is maybe her best ability, but the Cthulhu nerf could do it. Because 10 seconds is not that long of a duration.
I think if you build Deso, it'll be fine. Because he's already being played as like an ult bot, and you're almost guaranteed a kill every time you go into the ult. So,
but he'll be
Deso and a nice new cycle of abilities.
He'll be even more punishable early game though, which he kind of already was because he's just a guardian. So you could snowball off of him potentially easier now. But I'm not sure.
Even more late game, yeah.
Are you on the Guan jungle train for the next patch?
Me? No, I'm scarred of Guan jungle. That made me lose worlds. Remove that god from the game.
Hey man, does 200 now at rank 1? I don't know. I think we could see it.
Guan Yu support again. Here we go.
Was Guan Yu's issue his damage though? Isn't his issue that he kind of doesn't really do much? I don't know.
I think he does more than Bologna, but we see Bologna more.
That's just because Benji loves him. Right?
Oh.
Isn't Benji the only one that's played Bologna?
Ducky played it too.
Oh,
Ducky
did he?
Played Bologna, yeah. I thought Benji is more. Benji's definitely more the Cthulhu, for good reason, of course. But I haven't seen too many Bolognas. Guan Yu, why has that always been such an odd pick? Because on paper he's busted. He breaks 40% cooldowns.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a weird kit. I mean, his 3 takes 3 seconds to go off. Who cares how much damage it does if you just sat there like?
You don't even need it though. Just 2-1, 2-1 with your team, and then ults up again.
Yeah, but the damage isn't even that high, right? It's just weird because like if you put him in jungle and you build him damage where his 2-1 all that does like a bunch of damage, then he's just gonna die instantly. And if you build him tanky, then you're like slowing the enemies, but they're like, okay, I guess Guan's here now. It's done no damage to me, but that's cool.
Yeah, he was meant for slower, tankier metas where he could actually shred and stuff like that.
I think he can kind of fit into a similar role to Erlang, but like a little less supporty, a little more damagey.
You did say this was a dive meta, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing with Erlang is he has like 2 forms of easy to hit CC. I think that's what kind of makes him a good character. Obviously his ult as well, but that's not like as like his 2 and 3 are just always up for him to like CC. Whereas Guan Yu's like, yeah, he's gonna slow you and he can obviously stun you with his ult, but I just think Erlang's like strong point is the CC. And then Guan doesn't really. He just feels to me like he's just like kind of okay at everything kind of thing. I'm not really sure. He's like, I just don't know how to feel about Guan.
Well, last one for me. How do you feel about Ymir. Lermy's about to mind. How do you feel about
Blow a
Ymir?
gasket.
Flavor of the month, niche pick, overrated.
I don't know. I think he's just like an okay god to pick. I think like, I mean, we lost with him versus
Cthulhu.
versus Sanguine. It was,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and I think we should have won that game. We just had an atrocious Gold Fury fight. Obviously, it's easy to say we should win the game, but we had an atrocious Gold Fury fight where Mike said he was going to wall them off, which he did, and then Sam was like, "Okay, I'm going in," and then he jumped behind a Ymir wall, and then Sam was just in behind a Ymir wall with like 3 people, and it just died, and then we lost Gold Fury for that. But I think Ymir's like, it's weird because he's like overrated and underrated at the same time. I think people hate on him a lot for, like, I guess it's kind of valid because he loses every game. But I do think he has a lot of strong points. Like, he is like one of just the best early game characters. Like, he's like a magical Herc kind of, like, in the early game. Like, you can't fight a Herc early, and his wall has a lot of utility. But the second he's like even 1 gold behind, he's just a walking camp. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about him.
You're the only team that's won with him.
Yeah. That was like last phase though, right?
Yeah, last
that was
phase,
last
yeah.
phase.
He has a
that was
0% win
not
rate
good.
this phase, and he's
And
been
even
like
then,
10 times.
It was a pretty rough early game too. It wasn't about till I think it was like level 10 when you guys started grouping on PBM's walls.
Yeah.
Now it's I don't know. He's coming out of nowhere. I understood the meme of like Cthulhu counter, but there's no Cthulhu here. Why are you still playing him?
Maybe it's like weird for me to say, but I think it's just like unlucky that he's losing all the games he is, because I don't think he's like the contributing factor for a lot of Ymir's losses. Like, no offense, but Obey was picking him a lot, which is going to just tank his win rate. The same thing happened to Heim. Heim had like a 14% win rate because Obey was picking him every game.
Time for Cthulhu. Oh god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because United were just picking him support and stuff. Like, I just think it's like maybe an unfortunate coincidence for Ymir that he's just losing every single game. Obviously, there's some games where he is just a detriment, and I'm not excusing those games. But I think there are games where he is like a good pick or an okay pick, and it's just unfortunate they lost. Like in our set versus Obey, they should have beat us in game 2, and they had Ymir. Ymir did work, and he just lost, but it wasn't because of Ymir. Maybe Ymir's just cursed, but I would just say maybe it's just unlucky.
In the whole season so far, he's had 14 picks and 4 wins.
Yeah.
This season?
So, yeah, this season. But this split, it's probably been closer to 10 and 0 wins.
But he should have won 1. Let's get that out there. He should have won 1. Glad he didn't. I'm glad he didn't, but he should have.
Any more from you, Lermy? Questions?
I guess that's it for me. I'm just looking at these Ymir stats and trying to find all of the evils that he's brought to the SPL.
Imagine if he could move while using his 2 and his 3. It's funny, somebody said Sobek was basically kind of Ymirish in a way. At the very least, he's got the Ymir ult, but you can move with it. So, like, why just not put Fine on Sobek some more?
Well, Ymir has, is it 30% damage reduction? 20% damage reduction?
I think it's 15. Let me look.
Yeah, but it stacks, right?
Oh, is he still bugged, by the way? I wonder. Someone showed me this Ymir bug a while ago where, yeah, you get the, what was it? You get the mitigations or
The
something
damage
like,
reduction?
yeah, the damage reductions only if you let the ult actually last. If you cancel it, something else. Did they change? What did they change about the ult?
Well,
Oh,
basically,
just when it slows,
dying.
it applies it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, they made it so when you die, it like instantly explodes.
Yeah.
It's a debuff. So basically, enemies afflicted by frostbite deal 15% less damage. Lasts for 6 seconds. It doesn't stack. And they also take 100% more damage from Ymir by basic attack.
Let's see. If he dies while channeling, it will detonate, dealing damage for the amount charged. That's what it was. So basically, if you killed him, it still goes off. That's fine. But if you killed him while he was trying to cancel it early, you wouldn't take any damage.
Really? I don't think that's a bug. I feel
Really?
like I remember hearing something about that towards the start, but I don't think I've ever seen it come up like in script.
No, somebody messaged me that like a few months ago, and I told them to go to Ajax with it.
Yeah, I think I remember stuff like that happening.
Sure.
But I think it's fixed.
That's it for the SPL Rundown this week. I want to give a huge thanks to our special guest, Slainy. Are there any shout-outs you want to give, Slainy? And thanks for joining us this week.
I just want to obviously say thank you guys for having me on it. It's been really nice to talk to you guys. I mean, obviously it's boring, but thank you to like all the fans, like as always, like those kind of things. I just want to say like thank you to like all of the admins running in the Smite scene right now. Obviously this is like super hard with everything going on, and I think they're doing as good a job as they could be. So shout outs to them, and then obviously just normal shout outs to like the org sponsors, my teammates, and all that normal stuff.
Sure. All right, well, be sure to catch the SPL Rundown every week, 3 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/APM Productions. If you want to give me some ideas for guests in the future, be sure to message me on Twitter at APM2 or at APM Productions on Twitter. And be sure to check out Extended Cuts. There's going to be a long one for this one on the APM Productions YouTube. We should be having some of our other interviews that have happened recently up there soon as well. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you guys next week.